Hello, Marcus. How are you doing?
I am very well, Sam. How are you?
Very good. Good to hear it. Good to hear it. And Marcus, more brand photography wisdom today, I
It is.
understand.
It is, Sam. We're on the brand photography trip today. Yeah. And I want to talk to you about something that is one of the most important things that you can do for your photography business. And it's got nothing to do with kit, lighting, and nothing to do with social media. It's about finding your edge. So I came across this phrase through yoga. And the moment I heard it, I thought that is exactly what I want to talk about in the next context of branding photography. But here's the
Sounds
thing.
interesting.
Yeah, here's the thing, Sam. Most branding photographers are invisible, not because they're bad photographers, not because they don't work hard, but because they look exactly like everyone else with the same portfolios, Instagram feeds, they got the same prices and services, the same everything. And when you look the same as everyone else, as you well know, Sam, the only thing a client can do is make a decision on price. And that's a race to the bottom, as we all know and we've discussed on this podcast.
Yeah, not the way you want to go.
Exactly. So today, I want to help you find the thing that makes you different. And then I want to talk about how you can use it. So let's go.
Perfect.
Yeah, let's
So,
go.
Mark, I'm a bit with you're stealing my job here, Marcus. Effectively, you seem to be kind of you're doing my job now. I don't know what I'm going to do next week.
It's well, I'm just talking about myself here a bit, Sam. Really, my main, my own experiences. Um, so first of all, let's be clear about what I mean by your edge. It's not your style. Style is surface. Style is the way your images look, the color palette you favor, the way you use light, and whether you shoot tight or wide. And for sure, style matters, but it's not your edge. Your edge runs deeper than that. Your edge is the combination of your background, your experience, and the way you think about a brief. It's the thing you bring to a job that nobody else brings. And here's the really important part: nobody else is you. So we've often heard this quoted in marketing, isn't it, Sam? This all ties back to that whole why idea as well. So every photographer in this market has a different history, different influences and training, different jobs they did before this one, different life experiences. And all of that shapes the way you see, the way you work, and the way you communicate with a client.
Interesting.
But the problem is, Sam, that most photographers never stop long enough to identify what this is. They're too busy looking outward at the market, watching what everyone else is doing, adjusting, copying, and following trends. I know this, I've been there. Your edge is not out there, it's in here. And I'm pointing to myself at my chest here, to people listening. And until you identify it, you'll keep competing on the same terms as everyone else, which means you'll keep losing on price. Let's give me,
Interesting. So
yeah,
I've now got about 300 questions, but I'm presuming you're probably going to cover them. So I will keep quiet for now because I'm getting because this sounds really interesting, Marcus. So I'll let you carry on because I think all my questions you may reveal.
well, okay, let's talk about it at the end. Just go through it at the end. But yeah,
Yeah.
so what I'm going to do is I'll give you some personal examples just to bring in context. So I came up through fashion and advertising photography, and that was my world for a long time. Campaigns, editorials, working with art directors and creative directors, understanding briefs, understanding what it means to sell something through an image. Now, most branding photographers didn't come through that background. Most came up through weddings or portraits or events. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it does shape everything about how you approach a shoot. And you know me, Sam, I'm always harking back to my fashion photography days
I
because
would like to comment, Marcus.
because fashion photography taught me how to make people look good, how to direct someone in front of a camera, how to find the angle, the light, the moment that flashes them and makes them feel like something. Advertising photography also taught me how to sell, how to think about the end user of the image, the person who's going to see it and make a decision based on it, how to make an image do a job. And branding photography, when you really think about it, needs both of these things. It needs to make the person look good and it needs to sell what they do. So that is my edge. Because I guarantee that everybody out there has one. You might just not have named it yet. So,
Yeah, and
yeah,
presumably, even if you've come up, maybe your experience is short in photography but long elsewhere, that can also be your edge, and it
yes,
would be very different to those who spent their time in photography.
exactly, Sam. Everybody's got something they can bring to the table. You know, maybe you spent years in the theatre before you picked up a camera. You understand light in a completely different way to someone who learnt it like me in a studio. Maybe you worked in marketing or advertising before you became a photographer. And I know people like that. And I'm jealous of that because they understand what a client actually needs from an image in a way that most photographers don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you spent 10 years shooting weddings and you can read a room, direct a group, and get a shoot in 3 seconds. Get a shot in 3 seconds flat. That is a skill most studio photographers would struggle to replicate. Whatever it is, it's there. The question is whether you've identified it and whether you are using it.
Uh-huh.
So, now, I want to talk about something that I think holds a lot of photographers back, and that's copying. Not plagiarism. I'm not talking about stealing somebody's work. I'm talking about that slow, gradual shift toward photographers you admire. And we've all been there, and I still am certainly. But you might find someone whose work you love. You study it. You start to understand how they light, how they compose, how they edit, and slowly, without really meaning to, you start making images that look a bit like theirs. And then you find someone else, and then you drift a little further. And before long, you've got a portfolio that's a blur of influences and none of it distinctly you. So you can see where I'm going with this, Sam.
Yeah.
You is mentioned a lot. I understand why it happens. We all have photographers we admire. Looking at great work is how you develop your eye. That's fine. That's necessary. And I've just written a book about it. So I'll no doubt be plugging that when it's out in the market. But there's a difference between being influenced and imitating. A lot of photographers spend their entire career imitating without even realizing it. Now, here's the thing about imitation: even if you do it brilliantly, you will always be second best at being someone else. You can only ever be best at being you. And the
Yeah. Is
photographers you
this where
yeah, sorry.
personal projects can work? So, like, it almost, if you're doing personal projects, you could then, although you've got your look, you could then presumably vary and go, right, I'm going to do a project where I'm really going to copy this person, but then I'm going to kind of come back and work out what bits of it I want to bring into mine. While it's much more, if you're saying you're only doing commercial work, then your commercial work swinging. While if you've got your personal projects, they could move much more with the different people you're looking at, and then you work out how to bring that into your style. Is
Yeah,
that
look,
a
first of
good way
all,
to look at it?
yeah, definitely, Sam. And first of all, behind every great photographer, there's a personal project. It's at the core of your why, really. And
Yeah.
this is a well-known thing, as you know, in marketing. So but the photographers who build genuinely strong businesses, the ones who attract good clients, good fees, and get referrals, they're the ones who have moved away from the crowd, not towards it.
Yeah.
So finding your edge means being willing to be distinctly yourself, even if it feels uncomfortable, even if it means some clients won't get it. The ones who do get it will be your best clients. So let me have a quick sip of water here. So, how do you actually do this? How do you find your edge? Well, I've got 3 questions I want you to sit with. Don't rush them, just think about them properly. The first question: what do your clients say about working with you that they probably wouldn't say about another photographer? Not what they say about your image, but what is the experience? What's the process like? What it felt like to work with you? Because the way you work is as much a part of your edge as the images you produce. Maybe clients always comment on how relaxed they feel in front of your camera. Maybe they talk about how prepared you are, or how clearly you communicate, how easy you make the whole thing. So that's your edge shown right up there. The second question you might ask is, what do you instinctively do on a shoot that others have to consciously think about? And there's always going to be something, the way you use light, the way you direct a subject, the way you move around the space and find the shot, something you do without thinking that would take another photographer much longer to work out.
How
Yeah,
easy is that to find? So the first
yeah,
thing, you can obviously
yes,
talk to people, and that's other people are
yes.
helping. But that one, because you're doing it instinctively, how, in some ways, how would you know that other photographers aren't?
Well, I think this is not an easy thing to do, Sam. You've got to set
Yeah.
time aside and really dig deep here. Go through your process, be critical, do it with rigor, and that will help you find what your difference is. And there is always a difference. And it might be something at first that might seem minor, but when you start digging deep on it, you'll realize that's your difference, that's your edge.
Yeah. And in some ways, I guess, could conversations with other photographers help? Because you're saying, what do you do? And you're comparing, and that way you
Yeah.
can start to see where the differences are.
Yeah, it's an open market we live in. Communication is key. So the third question and final question: what could you talk about? So, the third question is: what could you talk about for an hour without preparing? Now, I would find it quite difficult because whatever this is, that's where your genuine knowledge lives, and genuine knowledge is the foundation of genuine authority, and authority is what attracts clients who are willing to pay properly. They'll pay for their expertise. So, as I said earlier, as we said earlier, Sam, sit with those three questions, write the answers down, because somewhere in those answers is your edge. And once you know what your edge is, something interesting happens. Everything sharpens. Your website copy stops being generic. Instead of saying you're a passionate photographer, we've read that a million times, haven't we, Sam, in about
We have.
pages. I'm a passionate photographer who loves capturing authentic moments, which means nothing and sounds like everyone else. You can start saying something specific, something that only you could say, something that makes the right client think, yes, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Your
Yeah.
pricing starts to make sense because you're not comparing yourself to other photographers like yourself, and you're not justifying your rate against someone who shoots the same subject but brings completely different experience to it. You're pricing your edge.
Perfect. Well, as you said, Marcus, the questions I had, you covered.
Yeah, well, I mean, how are we doing for time here? I've just sort of
Yeah, we're
lost.
still good on time.
Okay, let's just go. I've just got a little bit more written down here, Sam. So I
Okay.
might just go to the end. So finding your edge requires a kind of honesty that can feel uncomfortable. And we did say that because it means accepting that you can't be everything to everyone. It
Does
means
it also mean almost exposing yourself? Not to, that's the wrong way. You know,
being vulnerable,
exposing
Sam.
your kind of what you're about, which can feel quite scary, can't it?
Yeah, it's being vulnerable, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I think, without wishing to be too generic, I think guys find that hard to do that. And I think that's why, I see a lot of women, especially in branding photography, really, doing really well with their marketing because they're more comfortable being vulnerable, dare I say.
Maybe. Yeah.
And maybe, because it feels like a risk, but it's really, in reality, it's exactly the opposite. The photographers who try to appeal to everyone end up meaning nothing to anyone. The ones who are clear about their edge attract exactly the right people, and exactly the right people become exactly the right clients. So find your edge. It's not your style, it's not your kit, it's not how many followers you have. It's the combination of everything you've lived and learned and done that makes you the photographer you are. Nobody else has it. The question is whether you know what it is and whether you're using it. There you go.
Interesting.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
the edge.
Interesting way of kind of thinking about it, finding that what makes you you almost, and how that feeds into what you do as a photographer and makes you unique and enables you suddenly to elevate yourself above the mix.
Yeah, and as I say, it's not an easy thing to find, and it does take a bit of digging deep. But you need to separate yourself from the crowd, find your right market. The whole why thing. This is part of it, isn't it?
That's it. And then presumably as a new photographer, effectively you probably can't do this yet. You need some experience behind you, don't you?
Well, I was thinking that. I was just thinking that just then. Fun enough, Sam. Yeah, it does take time to develop. I mean, let's have a big up for the mature crowd out here.
I did say you had to be doing it for that long, but you've got, you have to have had some time, don't you? And you will at the beginning, like you said. You'll look at some photographers and you'll move their way and look at us and move their way, and as time moves on, you create your own style, which has those influences, but is your own.
Yeah, yes. I think maybe when you're younger, you're more willing to experiment, and I think that's how you can possibly find your edge. When I think of myself more when I was starting off, I was probably more, not too worrying about making mistakes and just getting on with it,
Yeah.
really.
That's it. But presumably when you say younger, I see that as younger in your photography career. You could be
Yes.
younger at photography at 70.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
just
yeah.
picture a camera. It's kind of your part of your wherever you are in that photography journey.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, younger in your career, in your journey, exactly. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, really interesting, Marcus. Thank you very much. Loads and loads of things for people to think about there. And I'll speak to you again next week.
Thanks, Sam. See you next week.